Good morning, everybody. We're going to go ahead and talk about People Pleaser by Jinger Duggar Vuolo. Got my notes. And let's get started. Hopefully today, I don't know. It's hard to talk about this one because I didn't do a video for her first book, and this kind of book is not, it's not a novel, and it's like almost a devotional, but not quite. So it's kind of in the middle, so I'm not 100% sure how to talk about it, but we're gonna try. I'm gonna go ahead and start with non-spoiler here. So this part is non-spoiler. So this book is very, very well written and very, very well organized. I really, really, really loved her stories, and I loved her Bible accounts that she put in here. I love how she fit everything together, and it just was like really balanced. I can tell that she worked so hard on this and that it took a lot of work. Her getting the right Bible verses, the right Bible accounts, the right stories from her own life all together must have been a lot of work. So I really, really like a lot of things in this book. I love that she talks about the healthy balance between service and self-care. This is not all like you need to be serving. This is not all you need to have self-care, which I find a lot of non-Christian books are a little bit too much on self-care, 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 and not helping the community, which I think is a little hypocritical because then they say help the community in other things. But then, so this one here is her second book, and I think that her second book did resonate with me a little bit more than her first book. And I'll get into why in the spoiler section. I don't really know how to talk about it in the non-spoiler, but I do highly recommend this book for anyone who sees themselves as a people pleaser, because it talks about healthy people pleasing and not healthy people pleasing, and that's a really important distinction. So if you think of yourself at all as a people pleaser, you should read this book. So let's transition into the spoiler section now, because it's way more easy for me to talk about a book like this in spoilers. So the negatives first, because I definitely want to end on the positives. There are many more positives than negatives. I do want to talk about the negatives. To me, some of the chapters resonated for me more than others. So a couple of them were very much like, I don't really struggle with that. And I don't think that's really a negative on Jinger. It's just that there are different kinds of people pleasers. And Jinger does talk about that. And so not every chapter really resonated with me. So that made the reading not as good. But like, that's not really anyone's fault. That's just, some of it was less applicable to me. For example, the mom kind of things. Obviously, I don't have kids, so like, that's not really Ginger's fault that I don't have kids. She was using examples from her own work, from her own life, and so that part just didn't register with me, which is fine. You know, that's not like any fault of hers. I don't really know to put this in the negatives or the positive. It just depends why you're reading this book. I don't really like discussion questions at the end of each chapter. It kind of slows me down. I'm not the personality type that can ignore those. So it like makes me stop my reading and like want to write something down or think about something. And I don't know why that bothers me. If it's like, if you're reading this as a devotional, I think that's great. But I was reading it as like a book. So it was kind of annoying. And I don't think, I'll have to go check, but I'm pretty sure that wasn't the case in her other book. So I liked her other book better in that sense that it was more book-like and less devotional-like. So, I mean, that was probably just like her wanting it to be more of a devotional, but I didn't really see it that way. So that's not really her problem either. It's my problem. But those are the negatives that I can think of, just two of them. So you can tell that that's a really good book if I just have two negatives. Positives. Let's go to something I actually like doing, which is saying the positives. Um, I like that she mentions there are different kinds of people pleasers. Even though I didn't identify with the whole book, I think everyone will identify with at least part of it because there's multiple kinds of people pleasers. I think that my personal type of people pleasing is different from Ginger's, so that's probably why. Um, and also, like, I've kind of grown out of it a little bit longer ago because of my chronic illness. Just some backstory about me. I have chronic illness, and when you have illness like this, you kind of have to work people pleasing out of your system because you have to speak up for yourself and say, I can't do that today because I'm not physically capable. And you also have to like learn really quickly to ask for things. So for me, I think if I could have read this book, obviously it didn't exist back then. If I could have read this book when I was in college, it would have had a huge impact on me. It would have had much more of an impact on me. But since I've had chronic illness, I've had to kind of work my people pleasing out. So I think that's why some of it didn't identify with me. Some of it still did because I still have some people pleasing tendencies. It's just not as much because I can't really afford that because like I have to ask for things when people don't want to give them to me. I have to advocate for myself. I have to cancel plans at the last minute because I can't drive. Like I did today, I had a migraine. I couldn't drive to Bible study. I can't think about what people are thinking of me because I didn't go to Bible study. I just can't drive. It's not safe. So some of it's just kind of already been worked out on me. I really, really like that they emphasize selfish service versus actual true sacrificial service. I see so many Christians who serve and you just like you can't really put your finger on it. Like this person, I appreciate them doing this service. This person, it leaves a bad taste in my mouth. I don't get it. What is the difference? And the difference is you can tell if someone's service is selfish, if they're doing it just to look good. People just in general are intuitive enough to be able to tell. And I like that she talks about that in this book, is that if you are serving just to look good, then there's no value in that. But if you're serving literally because you love that person can tell that that's genuine. So I really like that discussion. I'm really sounding like I'm on my high horse today. I do not mean to sound like that. I just have a lot of strong feelings about that. It talks about the importance of relationships, the importance of asking for help, which, like I just explained, is very important in my life. And I've had to learn that the hard way because I've pushed myself too hard because I was too scared to ask for help before in my life. So that definitely hit me, and I was really appreciative of that part of the book. Let me go on. Some of the housework things really I identified with strongly because obviously with chronic illness, I can't make this house look immaculate. You can see things in the background that other people would be embarrassed by if they were in their house, but I just can't afford to be picky about how my house looks because I can't get a bug and clean my whole house. Like I have to clean it very slowly, one room at a time, because I can't do those kinds of things every day. So that was the bulk of my thoughts. It was a very short book. There aren't it's not everything. I am going to put 3 really great quotes in here just kind of as my final thoughts. and I'll put them up on the screen while I read them. And hopefully, I didn't write down any words wrong, but I have them written down here. So the first one here: I've seen what happens when you and I are honest about our challenges, our struggles, our fears, and our mistakes. The lights gets in, the grace shows up. Freedom is the experience of truth. I really like that quote a lot. I've found a lot of really unhealthy churches because they're not honest about what they're struggling with. If you're honest with each other, then you're going to grow from it, and you're going to have a much healthier church and a much healthier family dynamic. Next quote. Let's face it, when you're a chronic people pleaser, it's pretty convenient for people around you. This is like my pet peeve, because I'm married to a chronic people pleaser. And throughout our relationship, people have taken advantage of him. And it's like my biggest pet peeve is when people take advantage of him, because he genuinely just loves people, and then people turn around and use it for their advantage. And I hate that so much. So that quote, I like read it to him and he was like, oh my gosh. It's very convicting. And then the last one here: moving away from inauthentic performance based holograms of ourselves doesn't mean we also move away from responsibilities we have for growing in our maturity and in our relationships we have with our fellow humans. That is just really showing the complexity of how complex it is to talk about this kind of topic, because as Christians, we are called to serve, we are called to think of others before ourselves, but that doesn't mean that we can be just rolled over. And that's not good for everyone. She gives a really good example of, at a restaurant, she found glass in her food, and her instincts, because she's a people pleaser, is just to not say anything. But like, that could be dangerous for other people as well. You know what I mean? So it's like you're serving others by speaking up and putting yourself in that uncomfortable situation. So, an amazing book. I really, really enjoyed it. Overall, it was a great experience. I definitely still like her other book better, which I think I did mention already, but it was a good one. So I know that was kind of all over the place, but I hope that you enjoyed it, and definitely recommend it to really any Christian that was raised very conservatively, because I feel like that tends to be where people pleasing kind of festers up, is when you're raised very conservatively. Not that that's bad, it's just that it tends to breed people pleasers. So yeah, I think that's it for me today. I hope y'all have a great day, and yeah, God bless.